Hi, this is Rick Adams for 635 Gov, the presidency. Um, Here to compare and talk about President Obama's form of rhetoric and that of President Trump and his form of rhetoric with his tweets. I think, I do agree that President Trump was seen as, President Obama was seen as an effective speaker. He was able to come in at a time when the country was going through an economic crisis. He had a very effective slogan, "Hope and Change." When you compare that to what we read in Tullis's book and President Johnson's War on Poverty, or President Reagan talking about the worst economic mess since the Great Depression. All of these slogans had effective impacts on the country and on the people. So I think he was very effective in his speaking. Was able to get the crowds and the people to act. Obviously, it won him a presidency. When you compare, I think, his domestic policies versus his foreign policy, I think he was more effective domestically. I don't think his strength was international. I know he was well respected internationally coming in. It was a change from President Bush, who led the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and President Obama came in with this idea of ending the war in Iraq and winding down the war in Afghanistan. But I think his rhetoric was not as effective, at least from an American standpoint. I think, in my opinion, the U.S. was put in a less advantageous position under President Obama. I think when you look at his talk on the red line in Syria, that I thought sent a clear message to others such as China or Russia to be more active in their parts of the world, or for Russia, for that matter, coming into Syria. So I think, for as effective of a speaker that President Obama was, I don't think, internationally he was as strong. When it comes to President Trump, I look at the different ways that he communicates. The tweets obviously are his, I think, most effective, and that's obviously what gets most of the press. And I think that's where he's the most blunt and the most praiseworthy with individuals. But he can also be very presidential when he is speaking to Congress, or, for example, last week when he was speaking to the United Nations, he can be a very formal speaker. And I think, he has shown that he will not back down in his talk. He, going back to what he spoke with at the United Nations last year in the form of the North Korea, he has shown to be very strong internationally. Then there's his campaign speeches. He likes to play to the crowd and get them, revved up, just like President Obama did. I thought he did that very well also. And then last, I think how he handles the media. If he's doing a formal interview, he's very cordial. He's very straightforward with the interviewer. I think he was in a press conference. It depends on who's asking the question. Obviously he's not. He's made it known that the media and certain members of the media are not his friends, so he can be very combative with the media. And I think that is how the tweets have been very effective for him. It's been the tweets have been a way for him to sidestep the media. So I think, in conclusion, both have been very effective speaking. Both have been able to rev their bases at their in their speeches. Both, I thought, have done what they needed to do as presidents. So again, this is Rick Adams for Gov 635, the presidency.